What did you learn from the McConnell family, and what did you learn from Biden's connection to China?
What I learned at the White House, and this was really at the White House, because before you go to the White House, you always hear these stories about, it's the White House calling. People like stand up and like, how can I help you? So I'm at the White House and I'm working with think tanks and law firms trying to, number one, expose what the Chinese were doing, but number two, come up with, credible policy options that we could implement that would get them, that would prevent them from taking advantage of our population. And time after time, they say, sorry, I can't help you. I don't want to anger my Chinese funders or my Chinese customers. My partners aren't comfortable with us because we have a lot of business in China. And I'm like, I'm calling from the White House. And our top think tanks—
They would literally give you this answer.
Top think tanks and the top law firms in the country were telling me, I can't help you. And so, I knew this already, right? So, but then when you really get an understanding of, okay, if they won't even help the White House, then we've got a serious, serious problem.
What did you learn about McConnell and Biden family?
Well, so I put, they're the only ones that I named in the book, and the reason I did is because it's all out in the open. You can go read the sources, the New York Times report, Wall Street Journal reports. Biden, his son, went with him on Air Force Two over to China. 10 days later is named a board member of Bohai Harvest hedge fund, which is a $1.5 billion hedge fund. McConnell, you already talked about, his family, his father-in-law knows Jiang Zemin, former chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, and his sister-in-law is on the board of the Bank of China, right? What influence would you say is there? They would say there is no influence. That just happened, part of McConnell. It happens to be my family relationships. On the part of Biden, he would say, that was my son. You really had nothing to do with me, although he did go over with him on Air Force Two. But that being said, it's not about quid pro quo. It's about adopting Xi Jinping's worldview. And his worldview, which he says at Davos many times, is globalization's good. We should continue to have open markets. We should continue to have open systems so that we can all collectively do well together as a global community. That's essentially, I'm paraphrasing what Xi Jinping says. But that's not what he believes. Because if you read the Chinese Communist Party documents, like, for instance, the document number 9 that have been that have come out of the country and have been translated, then you realize they repudiate every single element of, for example, the Atlantic Charter, which is a good one-page template for the international order, signed by FDR and Winston Churchill, 8 paragraphs, 1 page, democratic principles, free trade, rule of law, and self-determination. That's it. That, in a nutshell, that tells you about what the UN, WTO, Bretton Woods, all that's about. The Chinese Communist Party doesn't believe in any of those. So when he goes to Davos, Xi Jinping goes to Davos and he says, we need to stay open for business. It's not we need to stay open for business because democracy, human rights, civil liberty, and rule of law are great. It's because if you stay open for business, I can ensure that we have access to science, technology, innovation, and capital.